Shalom, real quick. The Apostle Tahar coming back at you with this truth, giving all praise to Yahweh Bashem, Yahshua Bashem, Rakakwadash. This is an article. Oh, by the way, I'm going to entitle this video, They Know That They're Edomites. Or they know that they are Edomites. Anyway, this is an article. What I did was I put in Obadiah 1, verse 18. I think I put in when was that fulfilled. So it popped up this site called Got Questions. It says your questions, biblical answers. It's and the title of the article is when were Obadiah's prophecies against Edom fulfilled? Obadiah 1 verses 18 to 20. And I read through it, and basically they concluded that the Edomites were done away with, which proves that they know that they're Edomites. You know, the fact that when I was reading it, kind of sounded they were quoting certain scriptures. I'm not even going to read it. I was getting sick reading it. Anyway, I'll read. You know, it says a question. When were Obadiah's prophecy against Edom fulfilled? Obadiah 1 verse 18 to 20. It says answer, a major factor. They're going to do a lot of this is what Esau is known as. He likes to filibuster. Let me look that word up. Esau is good at filibustering. Let me open up another
protect yourself at all times.
Excuse me, I opened up something else. Anyway, Google. I filibuster. Okay, this is what Esau is good at. Filibuster. An action such as a prolonged speech that obstructs progress in a legislative assembly while not technically contravening the required procedures. In other words, they're talking in circles. Okay, Marion's dictionary. Well, they use it in politics. Like if there's a Congress, somebody doesn't want a law to be passed, they'll filibuster. They'll talk in circles. That's basically what it means. Filibuster, an action such as a prolonged speech that obstructs progress in a legislative assembly while not technically contravening the required procedures. So they go around in circles, and that's what Esau is good for, man. And basically, when I read this, they're quoting a lot of scriptures, and the conclusion was basically, let me go right to it. Anyway, they quote, like I said, I'm going to put, well, I didn't say it, but I'm going to put this link in the description box so you can read it. And I'm reading this shit, and I'm like, this is some bullshit. Anyway, let me go to their conclusion. Yeah, they mention they mentioned 2 Chronicles 21 verse 16 to 17. They mentioned 2 Kings 24, 24th chapter and 25th chapter. I'll read this paragraph. If the earlier date is correct, Obadiah would be the earliest of the prophetic books in the Old Testament. Those who hold this position refer to 2 Kings 8 verse 20, which mentions Edom setting up its own king. In his days, Edom revolted, and the rule of Judah, and set up a king of their own. Also used to support this date are comparisons of Second Chronicles, blah blah blah. They go back to Joel 3, verse. Let me click on that. I'm surprised they mentioned this. This scripture, Joel 3, verse 3, and 6. It mentions, I don't know what version this is, and have cast lots for my people, and have sold a boy for prostitution, and sold a girl for wine that they may drink, blase, blase. And then it goes in the 5th verse, for you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried my rich treasures into your temples. You have sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks in order to remove them far from their borders. So I guess they know that they're the Greeks, that the Edomites are also Greeks. Anyway, it goes on to say, as well as similarities between Obadiah 1, verse 1 to 9, and Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah 49, verse 7 and 22. It's talking about Edomites. It says that the latter date is correct. The prophecy of Obadiah regarding Edom's doom is more dramatic. Babylon completed its invasion of Jerusalem under King Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC, and it shows you that these Edomites know history, so they know that who the Edomites are. In the 5th century BC, a people called the Nabateans defeated the Edomites and forced them from the city of Petra. So now they say that when you type in the word Petra and go to Google, go to images, it'll show you this palace carved. What's the word? Not carved, chiseled, I guess, from the mountains, and it has you can see that it has a Roman architectural style. But they say that the Nabateans were the ones that built those that broke up the rock to make those palaces. That was Esau's palace. All right, with the Roman style, architectural style. It says, called the Nabateans defeated the Edomites and forced them from the city of Petra. The interval between predictions and fulfillment would therefore have been very short. It says, regardless of the exact date, the predictions against Edom have already been fulfilled. So what are they saying? With all that filibustering, with all that shit talking, we call it talking in circles, they basically say that Edom was done away with. And that's why Dr. Edom says that Edom was done away with. Edom was not done away with. It says Edom was removed from its land in the 5th century BC, and there are no survivors of Edom today. This fulfilled the prediction of Obadiah 1 verse 18. They shall burn them. You read bringing the whole verse. It says that the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and they shall kindle, and Edom shall be for stubble. So in order for that to happen, the tribes will have to come back together as one nation. And that didn't happen in the past. That didn't happen in the Dark Ages, the so-called Dark Ages. That didn't happen 2,000 years ago. That didn't happen before the Lord was on the scene. So when did it happen? It didn't happen. But Esau knows it didn't happen. On these Jakes that are popping up to these various camps, Jake come up dressed, well dressed, and he's going to tell you that you're going off on this, and when you go to this, those people are sent. They're actually sent by Edomites, the lower, lesser luminaries. And they're failing. Like they sent this guy, Dr. Eric Mason, and he came like he was going to make us see the light. And it didn't happen. And all of a sudden, he disappeared from off the scene. And here this clown, Dr. Edom, Vocab Malone, trying to come against us. But now his people are leaving him. They're leaving this false Christianity, this plantation Renaissance Christianity. It goes on to say, but all mentions of Edomites fades after the Jewish wars of that era. Now, when you go to the Jewish wars, part of the battlefield was fought down there in Edom, south of Jerusalem, and those were Israelites down there. Oh, and by the way, Edomites were there fighting on the side of Judah, because they were trying to get to the promise, man. They were trying. So there was Edomites that wanted to keep the laws, and they were fighting. And if I had time, I'll go into it. I wanted to in another video. That the Edomites were actually fighting side by side with the kingdom of Judah. And that Herod, whichever Herod was ruling at that time, he had his own personal army, and he was actually fighting against the Edomites and Jake. If you go into the research, you got to do a lot of research and studying, man. Anyway, during that time period, the reason why Jake was defeated is because they couldn't get together. You had three groups. You had this one Israelite leader, then you had the Sakari, then you had the Zealots, and they were killing each other because they were trying to, each of these three groups were trying to be the head group. So while they were fighting against the Romans, they were killing each other. But that was set up that they were supposed to take down Judah. Anyway, it says, it says, Obadiah 1 verse 18, they shall burn them and consume them, and there shall be no survivor for the house of Esau. Some first century leaders such as Herod, the Greek, right, that was Herod, one of the sons of Herod the Great, still trace their ancestry to Edom. But all mentions of Edomites fades after the Jewish wars of the area. Yeah, because a lot of them Edomites scattered up into the mountains, and they took on different names. At the end of the 4th century, Jerome referenced the land of Idumea, Edom, but the people of the region had long since disappeared. Yeah, they long since disappeared from that land. They scattered like we scattered. So you have Edomites all over the goddamn place. Anyway, that's all I'm going to read. You know, Esau sits down and he comes up with his own line of history. Like Voltaire said, how he say it? He said history is the lie that's agreed upon. You got a bunch of guys that call themselves scholars and historians, and they'll say this happened then and that happened here, and Edom was done away with during this time period. And then they'll agree with it, and then they'll put labels on them. We're scholars, we're experts, we're doctors. But it doesn't work on us. It's not going to work on us. You sending these Jakes down to try to show us that we're going off, and you wind up with your tail between your legs. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. On to the next one.